dawning of creation, far beyond the finitude of time, flowing in harmonious procession, eloquent in rhythm and in rhyme, high above the glories of the heavens, deeper than the mind can comprehend, greater than the story of the ages, the first and last, beginning and the end. Always there has been, ever there will be, dwelling at the heart of all eternity, the joyful three in one, the graceful one in three, dancing at the center of it all. In a sacred circle of companions, spoken through a holy healing word, there within the spaciousness of silence, the beauty we have felt and seen and heard. For always there has been, ever there will be, dwelling at the heart of all eternity, the joyful three in one, the graceful one in three, calling from the center of it all. Where we find you, God.